You first, I mean, then I'll ask you to. Hello, this is Zafar Abundance Walla. Today on Abundance Show, we are joined by Akin Toby. The Toby, our buddy, a distinguished expert in urban management and geographic information system (GIS), with over decades of experience in international development and public administration. Toby has served as a United Nations volunteer urban management specialist, where he led critical topographical surveys and urban planning initiatives in challenging environment like South Sudan. Currently, he serves as advisor on EGIS in Ekiti state government, where he leverages technology to modernize land administration and urban development. His work sits at the vital intersection of technology, infrastructure, community resilience. Topi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy
And
to be here.
that's cool. Okay, Toby, would you like to tell us more about what I could not tell my audience?
Well, well, I'm like you have introduced me. I'm Matu Toby. So many people call me Toby. Um, for some years now, um, since 2009, I joined the UN Habitat as a volunteer, but hosted by UNDP in South Sudan. And of course, the South Sudan was just getting out of the war then, and the independence. So I served both in Sudan and South Sudan, and it has been very exciting since I started. And, we've been trying to put things together, use data to solve problems, and trying to reintegrate returnee in Sudan, and as well as elsewhere, for instance, in Nigeria. So, talking about this, data has been very essential in what I work with. Basically, spatial data, geographical data showing coordinates of where those features exist, and of course other attribute data that helps to make decision in providing housing. And this is very essential because housing itself is a bundle of service. So if you are providing housing, you are not only talking about shelter, you are talking about durable solution to housing, where you bring in infrastructure, you create livable livable community, and that's that about generally what I do. However, my intervention and my work in Ekiti State has to do with land management. Of course, land is a kind of very essential component of housing, and what I try to do in that aspect is to kind of help through improving land administration by intervening in the land governance, whereby you want to kind of digitize, create digital archivers for land certificates, create new environment, and as well as create an integrated land management system being supported by a kind of um, information land management system. So this is what I do so far, and of course, quite recently we are kind of helping IDPs in Nigeria through EU support and financing in northern Nigeria. So this is what I do. Thank you.
That's really fantastic to have the background and catch up with you what you've been doing so far. Yeah, my prime question again goes to for first you as an expert, and then second, what is United Nations Habitat? What does it do? What's the what is the aim? What's the charter of UN Habitat? That how it operates, and what was your experience with this?
Of course, UN Habitat Charter is very straightforward. It creates sustainable cities and community, and try as much as possible to kind of operationalize SDG Go 11. It's very straightforward. And of course, UN Habitat is into the business of women security, um, um, healthy city, healthy people living in a livable environment. So their intervention is mainly in urban settlement. That's what UN Habitat does. You know,
Do you think the program UN Habitat present is it the final solution to the housing?
yeah, yes, of course. Why did I see that way? Is because as much as I know, the program itself tried to work with the national government and even the local government. And what it does is to bring everybody on board because the housing problem is so huge that every hand is needed on deck. And this is why I think UN Habitat is doing the right thing, and they're doing the right thing, trying to make sure that they use the appropriate tools. You can of course hear about different forums in which they bring people on board. They have a lot of expert groups that look at housing and kind of review the new way of doing things, and they have been in this business for as long as I know. Yes, I think the UN Habitat is doing good. Yeah.
And how does it operate? I mean, general housing so colonies, what they do, they acquire the land and then they plan it, then they
No, no, no,
go.
no.
Is
Okay.
how it is different than normal planning and normal housing provision entities.
Yes, it's not direct construction. That's what you are describing is what we call direct construction. And from my own part of the work, and for what I know that UN Habitat does is more than that. They support government. They collaborate with partners to kind of go into creating environment that can support durable, affordable housing and durable solution to housing crisis. Is unlike what you think that they go straight into direct construction, but it's way more than that. Yes, and a lot of capacity building for partners and creating partnership. And of course, UN Habitat is a kind of technical or agency, but where UN Habitat operates, you will see that there are funding partners coming to help the government, which is the beneficiary of whatever they are doing, you know. And this whatever they are doing is not done alone, it's done with the input of the partner, so that when the organization leaves or finishes what it's doing at a certain time, because in most cases they go in as creating a project, and so that when they leave, the people they leave behind, the partners they leave behind, they keep on doing the right thing the right way so that this crisis can be minimized.
That's amazing. I got this is a technical support, and they are providing you with data and tools and technologies,
Mm.
and there are certain formulas, and it's kind of knowledge base they are providing, and to the players, to the real players for working for housing, and how does it collaborate with local authorities?
Yes, of course. The entering point into a country is always the national government, and when a local government is identified, it connects with that country office and the regional offices that I mean, it connects with the national office. Then the national office connects with the regional office within that region. Before getting to the headquarters. So the operation has always been signing of memorandum of understanding. Then having to do with the assessment that is after the signing of the MOU with either the local community or the local government. You kind of move to what we call exploratory mission or scoping mission. And in that scoping mission, of course, you try to do assessment and have a feel of the problems that is on the ground and what you are getting into. And after that, you of course develop the the concept note because your assessment informs the concept note, and you move on to kind of do the validation with the stakeholder to know that you have really got the solution right, and for them to say yes, you can go on with your concept note. Then you develop that into a project proposal, and then you kind of sign a kind of contribution agreement whereby is with the partner or with any of our donors. Then you start implementing whatever is in the plan. However, it's good to mention here that most of the work we do is to start with plan. When you have a plan, you can start implementing, and is the plan that the potential donor needs to provide any available assistance. That is how it works. Yeah.
Thank you, Toby. I work in an organization which is a government funding agency for housing. Like, I mean, I'm mortgaging people's property for they can buy or build their own homes. Okay, and UN Habitat also is operational in Pakistan. What what the memorandum of understanding can be signed between my agency, that's a government agency, and United Nations Habitat?
The truth of the matter is, the question you asked me, I don't think it's more than the kind of things I do. When it comes,
It's okay.
yeah,
But I
when it
mean,
comes to
since you were talking about that the UN Habitat collaborates between the players of housing, though directly or indirectly. So since we are also indirect player in housing, we are not making any housing colonies or anything. I mean, it's one of the organizations. There are other also. So where I work also. So what I'm looking for the opportunity to take the leverage advantage of United Nations Habitat.
yes, I just want to be clear on this that I'm talking about what is operational, but when it comes to that kind of things you are talking about, I can't really comment on it seriously because, of course, I'm just a consultant. I'm not a kind of in the level of decision making or a full staff member of UN Habitat. Yeah, and that is how it goes. So what I'm trying to do is just to describe what I know as UN Habitat operation, but not as making such decision as it is. And of course, I'm not supposed to even talk about UN Habitat the way I was, but just within what I do as a professional. You know, I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Got your point. Okay, Mike. The next question is that it's about tech urban intersection. So you spent much of your career in using GIS as satellite data to map physical world.
Yeah, yeah.
How does digitalizing land and urban spaces contribute to creating an environment of abundance for the people living in there?
Yes. GIS itself is to make things simpler and trying to break barriers and remove a lot of red tapes. As you know, that GIS itself is this destructive technology, so to say. So, what we have been able to do as far GIS coming in with geomatics and this technology is to quickly do things that take time to do. You know, for instance, you want to kind of get the land information system running after allocation of land to people so that they are tied to 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 their parcel and of course if they are tied to their parcel and they have certificate that they were talking about security of tenure. So this is one aspect that we have used GIS to of course achieve. Another thing is the portals, the web portals for land information, where GIS has been able to, of course, do that. Is it brings in transparency in managing of land, and of course in the security of tenure. And we have always struggled, with having an accurate data because when you want to put this thing on the ground, it's a kind of a digital twin. The way it is in the paper is what you want to put on the ground. So we have some technology we use that relates to coordinates and projection, and this is what GIS has done, and that is what we are applying, even where you find it difficult to quickly get um, a datum, a ground control point. We have systems now that is able to quickly do that to us, so that the the place we work can be accurately located on the surface of the earth and give a real replication of whatever is in there. For instance, you are able to plan and stay away from the lowland that is susceptible to flooding, and that helps a lot in improving the environmental and reducing the environmental threat that might be occurring anywhere you are planning. So this is what GIS has really helped to do. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, great, Toby. During your time with United Nations in South Sudan, You manage surveys to accommodate thousands of households. What did that experience teach you about human element of urban planning and the true meaning of community?
There's one thing that resonates in those experiences I had in South Sudan, and it's very straightforward, but we tend to kind of forget. And the fact is, you can give the best community, you can give the best housing, beautiful streets, but when you neglect or you forget to bring in livelihood, it won't work. You can do that, you can provide the housing, but when there's no livelihood, I'm sorry, people will move. And this happened, is one of the big lessons I learned in my intervention and my work in South Sudan, where we created this good environment, but since there was no employment, I think the returnees moved to an urban area where they could get the kind of job that they want. You know, why that happened was that when the returnee left because of the war to North Sudan, they were agrarians and pastoralists. So over years, they have turned to urbanites, you know. And when they came back, we I think we thought they were going to go back to their whole life, but no. And they had to move from from the 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 rural settlements to urban centers where they could get work. And of course, in urban center, there's always urban advantage over the rural area. So this is a big lesson. Yeah.
That's great. Now, the my next question is about modernizing governance. As an advisor on EGIS, you are helping bridge the gap between traditional land administration and modern technology. What are the biggest hurdles in convincing institutions to move towards a more transparent, tech driven future?
One of the big challenges is that those technology are not free. You want to use those technology, be ready to dedicate chunk of your projects, of your budget to support that area. And of course, if there is political will, I think it can happen. But I don't know. There is a misconception within the political space. They think that those technology like GIS and things you use is for free. And in these days, you will run into problem of the expensive software we use in GIS. Though we have these days free and open source software that you could use to kind of alleviate that problem. But of course, you must have an in-house developer that can tweak things, the way you want and customize those tools. So the biggest challenge now is how do we tell our decision maker that these softwares are not for free. If you buy or you acquire the software, you need to pay for maintenance that runs into thousands of dollars. You need to bring internet and dedicated internet for that matter that that you need to pay for, because in most cases there is always in the cycle that this thing is a kind of how do we call it, a kind of one-off, which is not. You need to maintain, you need to pay more money. How do you get this into their system? So this is it, though. if you look at the capability of GIS and what it brings into governance, is powerful, is sweet, is good, but it's not for free. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, in business, no lunch is free. Okay. The abundance of data. Since my program is about abundance, and I keep tuning into abundance, and I myself and for others also, we often hear about big data, but the context of urban management. How can we ensure that data is used to empower marginalized groups and provide equitable access to resources?
Yes, that is big data. Big data is big, man, and I love big data, and I do big data. You know what big data does is it brings some insights that people don't think about in those days. You know, for instance, let me put it in a context. You these days people bring they build malls, you know, and these malls is there are big shopping centers, and of course it could be a distance from your neighborhood, and for you to study that, you need big data. For instance, you need big data, and that for you to get the behavioral pattern of these users that you want to satisfy. Why I'm saying this is because in those days when we plan, you have these tummy shops, corner shops around your neighborhood where you take coffee and things of that stuff. But of course, all those things are changing now. To put that into context. So now, with big data, you can, of course, look at the movement of people within the urban space because everybody has devices now, and you can track those devices to see the behavioral pattern, which can give you insight of how you plan your mobility, you know, and your space and your open space. So big data is big, and it comes with a lot of insight. So when you relate it to GIS, yeah, and which is of course what we're talking about here now, is that you can get what you want in a fly, just like that. You can track phone, you can you can get as much data as you want from social media, and when you put all those things together, of course, is a lot of data that can help insights into urban planning and even land administration, you know. And that is why I really love big data. It helps a lot.
Thank you, Toby. Okay, now my next question is about sustainability and resilience. With
Mm.
your background in land administration and urban planning, what do you believe you are the what do you believe are the three most critical components for building a sustainable city in 21st century?
Please, can you say that again? Yeah, I want to get it right. Are the three what?
I'll read it again for you. Since the question is about sustainability and resilience, the
Mhm.
with your background in land administration
Mhm.
and urban planning, what do
Mm.
you believe are the three most critical component for building a sustainable city in 21st century?
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, the first thing is this: you need to study your population. Population relates to space. If you get your population right, you'll be able to provide and be able to manage either the land or any environmental features, and able to even create environmentally sustainable areas. That is one, you know, is the population. How do you get the population? How do you study the population so that they can live sustainably? of course, the second thing is the space. When you're talking about space, do you want to densify or you want to spread your growth? You know, and that we always look at. Of course, the big thing and the nice thing for you to do is to densify. You know, and that is what we are looking at now. And of course, again, you kind of want to stay away from greenland greenfield development. You want to look at the brownfield, you want to look at the red field, you want to kind of look at creating a kind of uses that are dense, they're compatible, sort of within that space, and and of course, all this still relates to to what we are talking about. Again, if you are staying away from your greenland, you know that you want to live sustainably with what is happening now, you need to have food security. Yes, population, people gonna hit. You can't go on to infiltrate into green area. They're supposed to provide food security or where you have to grow the food to feed the population. And in fact, with the new concept that is coming in now, we talk about urban agriculture. You want to leave your setback from 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 environmental sensitive area so that you can grow your food there. You can do some little agriculture within the urban area. You want to have the farm on your roof. I've seen that happening, and these are very good concepts. And you want to reuse and reuse water so that to live sustainably. So these are the uh, three few things that I know from my experience that is going to be very important in the future urban setting. Thank you.
Okay, the most important question of my show to me, the future of urbanization,
Mhm.
or the future of urbanism. If you could design a city from scratch today using the latest EGIS technology and sustainable practices, what is the one feature you would include that most cities today are missing?
Okay. What in African setting, what I would like
Generally,
to include, yes, what I would like to include is the condominiums, the condos.
uh,
We should live in condos. We build up, you don't spread. But for us here, our culturally, we want to have low rise houses, like, we want to have a small house, bungalow at the back of it, we have garden and have to play around. But this is no more sustainable as per the African setting. Though I can see it in other regions that they are really achieving that. But one thing that I will do, if I have the opportunity to create a new city, is to live in condominiums and the high rises and respect the green field and create environmentally sensitive areas where people don't go to. So this will help us to have municipal boundary and allow, if it's defined within that boundary, you allow people to live with that area without kind of having urban sprawl getting into the adjoining urban area. So this is one thing that I would really like to do.
wow, what an idea! I mean, again, my next question is about role of GIS in economic growth. Secure land. rights, secure land rights, and accurate mapping are often cited as foundations for economic prosperity. In
Mm.
your view, how does a robust GIS framework unlock wealth and opportunity for nation?
Yes, um, the robust GIS can always do that. One, if somebody has internal security that GIS can bring, it's going to improve on his property. Yes. The more certain about internal security, the more people wants to invest on that property. And again, you just said it. If you have a property that's well valued, you can obtain a kind of funding by talking to a financial institution and using your property, so to say, as a collateral. It's as simple as that. And now you can see that from there you can grow economically, but again, it still depends. When you have a property that is not well mapped and it's not registered, it's the other way around. It won't happen. And again, what we have to look at is in 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 the system, the people that are really affected, they are the vulnerables. They live in areas that are bad for their health. They live where it's susceptible to flooding and any other hazard, because of course that's what they could avoid. But if if you have an kind of bringing GIs and with fit for purpose land administration methodology, this thing is to record their rights and recognize that they exist, because the system we have now does not really recognize that those people exist. And in fact, in some courtesies and some literature, it has been found out that those who live in chunks or shanty towns, they are not really covered during the national census. And you need to focus on that area to really get a kind of data that can help your insight to know who you are providing for, you know. And this is one of those few points that I think that GIS can really do, and is doing now.
Thank you, Toby. It's like you're very diving deep and getting gems of wisdom and presenting it on my show. Thank you so much. Okay, my last question is personal philosophy, and it's on the Abundance Show. We focus on mindset of health, wealth, and happiness. How your work in shaping the physical environment influenced your personal perspective on what it means to live an abundant life.
Yeah, abundant life. Abundant life starts in our community. Okay, let me take it like this. If you have a city, these cities are subdivided into cells or neighborhood. So when you have altogether different cells living together, they become an urban area. Then you start talking about looking about inward. What do you want to look now? You want to look at individual houses. And when you are talking about that, you're already looking at housing. Housing itself is a bundle of service. If you're talking about housing now, you're talking about the shelter. You have to bring shelter. You have to bring water, potable water. You have to bring roads and all the infrastructures. You need to bring shopping centers, worship centers. You need to bring in, if you are creating one, you need to in bring in schools, yeah, and within that walking distance, and that is what it's all about. So housing is a bundle of service. So when you're talking about abundance, you're talking about the quality of life of that. So the real thing is this: get the housing right, bring the right component, get the standard, and everybody will live abundant. And don't forget the lesson and learn in South Sudan. We are talking about abundance. We're talking about living right and living healthy. You need to think about livelihood, employment. I can tell you, uh, I can see a lot of our youth not being employed now.
I'm having problem with your voice. I mean, is your mic is working? Is
Can you hear me now?
yeah, it's cool now.
Okay. So I don't know where I went off, or where do you want me to repeat?
If we can, one thing I loved is you're thinking about the communities. Fantastic. So it's like living abundant life. But my last question, I can just rephrase it. Like it says on on abundance show, we focus on mindset of health, wealth, and happiness.
Yes.
How does your work in shaping physical environment influenced your personal perspective on what it means to live an abundant life?
Yes. And I was saying that abundant life is about housing, because housing is a bundle of service that brings everything. All we have to do is to work on the standard. If you are talking about housing, you are talking about bringing in road, bringing in potable water, schools, hospital, and providing whatever the the population can support within that cell I describe as a neighborhood. You know, and so, and I said, don't forget my lesson I learned in South Sudan. If you need to provide abundance, you need to provide and give opportunity for livelihood. It's as straight as that, you know. And of course, you still want to maintain the standard. Don't let the standard drop. And everything is about standard. And to maintain this and keep it the way it is, a GIS can be used to manage and give more information and adequate information on those things you have set up to live good life and abundance life. Yes, we need to really work on our housing sector. Thank you.
Wow. It's been amazing session. I have enjoyed each minute of and each moment of what you said. And I like to have your say and your permission also. How about in Pakistan, there is lots of housing going on, and there's like outburst of housing schemes. So, is there any thing that you can provide remote consultancy to housing in Pakistan?
Yes, generally, what I feel about housing is, how do we make it affordable? Yes, there could be a lot of housing projects, but you might take it with me that is most cases out of the reach of the of some people, so to say. How do we provide housing and make it affordability? Affordability does not mean that you drop the standard. It's to set up a system where everybody could benefit. We have seen this thing happening, and I've studied this thing happening in Netherlands. It's unlike what I'm used to here, where you see you can differentiate. from who has and who doesn't. If you have housing, the way you said it, one thing we can look at is how to make it affordable and make more people to benefit. It's very important. And that is the area I think we could look at.
Wow, that's really nice. And any plan to coming to Pakistan? Be my guest whenever you want to.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was an abundant session with you and touching the heart of the people who are into housing, just because housing relates to everybody directly. And everybody is like, we've come from heaven and we'll go back to heaven, and we want our homes like heaven. And the people like Toby are here to make this dream make possible. Thank you so much, Toby. Don't go away.
Thank you.
I'll be talking to you after I go offline, and I like to discuss a little more things. But thank you so much for
Thank you.
being on the show and for a
Thank
short
you.
notice. And it was amazing show. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Toby. See you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Toby. Don't